Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay. So let's take a couple of minutes. Come back to your breath. Let your mind relax.
Ya,
Just watch the gentle in-breath and out-breath.
marilah kita sejenak beberapa menit hadir di sini, mengamati keluar dan masuknya nafas.
And then let's generate our motivation and recall that everything we have comes from other living beings. So material possessions, even our ability to speak, to walk, all of that depends on the kindness of people who taught us. And all of the knowledge or special skills we have, artistic, musical, whatever, all of this comes from other people teaching us and encouraging us. So take a minute and recall that and really feel your dependency on others and the kindness of others who have taught you so much during your life.
Sejenak, marilah kita tumbuhkan motivasi kita, sadari bahwa semua yang kita miliki, harta kita, pengetahuan, keterampilan, kemampuan kita membaca, menulis, semua hal adalah hasil dari kebaikan semua makhluk. Begitu banyak makhluk yang telah mendorong kita, mengajarkan kita, sehingga kita mampu menguasainya. Sadari bahwa inilah fakta, kenyataan bahwa hidup ini pada dasarnya adalah semuanya saling bergantungan.
So even though you may have been harmed by other living beings, put that aside and right now just focus on their good qualities and appreciate what they have done for you.
Meskipun kita pernah disakiti oleh orang lain, sadari bahwa itu adalah sebuah hal yang terjadi kepada kita dan pahami itu.
and have a wish to repay their kindness. And then remember that the best way to repay kindness is by progressing on the path to Buddhahood. Because as a Buddha, then you will have the wisdom, the compassion, and the skillful means to best be able to benefit others and repay their kindness. So develop that bodhicitta motivation.
Dan tumbuhkan sebuah tekad untuk membalas kebaikan yang telah mereka lakukan kepada kita. Hal ini dapat kita lakukan dengan menumbuh kembangkan kearifan dalam proses menuju kebudaan. Karena dengan menjadi Buddhalah kita memiliki pengetahuan, kearifan, dan keterampilan untuk dapat membalas kebaikan-kebaikan yang telah mereka lakukan kepada kita.
And then slowly open your eyes and come out of your meditation.
Perlahan buka mata dan keluar dari meditasi.
Okay. So, I'm going to do just a little bit of review about what we've covered so far, and then start with the verses that we haven't done. Okay.
Kita mulai dengan mengupas ulang sedikit bait-bait yang telah kita bahas, dan kemudian kita baru lanjutkan dengan ayat yang akan kita bahas selanjutnya.
So the author of this text, the 37 Practices of Bodhisattvas, Togme Sambo, he starts by reminding us of our precious human life and all of its possibilities to learn and practice the Dharma and progress on the path.
Di penulis teks ini mengingatkan bahwa betapa mulianya bisa dapat lahir sebagai manusia dengan segala keberuntungannya, dan bagaimana kita harus menumbuhkan kemajuan dalam jalur praktik ini.
But we have many internal hindrances to practicing. We get distracted by all the things we're attached to, all the things we're angry at, all the things we're jealous of, all the arrogance we have. All these things really distract us from spiritual practice.
Jadi, tapi kita punya rintangan internal ya, yang menghalangi kita dalam kemajuan praktik, kemarahan kita, kemudian hal-hal yang kita melekat, dan itu semua adalah rintangan bagi kemajuan praktik spiritual kita.
So then he reminds us, to keep some space from all the people and things that we're so attached to work on calming our anger and not, get so involved with people who are very angry and lead us on the wrong path.
Beliau mengingatkan kita untuk menjaga jarak dari orang-orang yang dapat merintangi kita ya di dalam jalur praktik spiritual ini.
So this involves giving up what he calls bad friends, people who want us to be happy but in a worldly way.
Beliau mengingatkan kita untuk meninggalkan teman-teman yang buruk, yaitu orang-orang yang ingin kita bahagia secara duniawi saja.
And instead to cultivate Dharma friends, and especially to establish a relationship with a qualified spiritual master.
Dan membangun sebuah hubungan dengan teman-teman spiritual, dan secara khusus menjalin sebuah hubungan dengan seorang guru spiritual yang mumpuni.
And then this qualified spiritual master will introduce us to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, who are reliable objects of refuge, who will teach us the correct path.
Ya, guru spiritual ini akan mengenalkan kita kepada Buddha, Dharma, dan Sangha dan mengajarkan ajaran-ajaran yang membimbing kita menuju jalur spiritual.
So we take refuge in the three jewels, and we, again, don't get distracted by worldly gods and fortune telling and all this kind of stuff, but we stay really fixed on the three jewels and allow them to guide us.
Ya, dan kita sungguh-sungguh mengandalkan tiga permata, ya, mengandalkan bahwa mereka dapat membimbing kita sehingga kita tidak terjebak ke dalam keyakinan kepada dewa-dewa duniawi atau pemimpin-pemimpin spiritual lain yang dapat mengarahkan kita ke jalan yang salah.
And then the first things that the three jewels instruct us in is the law of karma and its effects. And here the point is to learn to discern the difference between virtuous and non-virtuous actions, to know the results of our actions, the long-term karmic results of our actions, and to be more mindful and have more introspective awareness, so we are more aware of what's happening in our mind, with our speech, with our body, so that we could keep good ethical conduct.
Dan hal pertama yang diajarkan oleh dalam hal ini adalah pemahaman tentang karma, bahwa kita harus menyadari, ya, menumbuh kembangkan awareness kita, kesadaran kita akan perbuatan-perbuatan yang kita lakukan, bahwa itu akan memberikan dampak kepada kehidupan kita. Jadi pertama-tama yang kita harus pahami adalah pemahaman tentang karma dan dampak-dampak perbuatan yang kita lakukan.
And then on that basis of good ethical conduct, which will create the cause for a good rebirth, which we need so we can continue to practice in many, many future lives, then we start to really learn the four noble truths and develop, cultivate the aspiration for liberation, to be free of the cycle of samsara.
Ya, jadi pemahaman karma ini akan mendorong kita untuk mempraktekkan dan mengedepankan perbuatan-perbuatan bajik. Nah, kebajikan ini akan menjadi sebuah katalisator, penyebab untuk kelahiran yang baik. Nah, kelahiran yang baik ini kita perlukan supaya kita dapat memenuhi kondisi untuk mencapai kebudaan, dan lalu kita pun beraspirasi untuk dapat mencapai pembebasan, keluar dari lingkaran kehidupan dan kematian, dan kita mempelajari 4 kebenaran Arya dan seterusnya.
Okay, so that brings us up to where we stopped last time. And now we're going to start on verse 10.
Ya, minggu lalu, pertemuan sebelumnya kita berhenti di sana, lalu hari ini kita akan lanjutkan hingga syair ke-10.
Okay, so when your mothers who've loved you since time without beginning are suffering, what use is your own happiness? Therefore, to free limitless living beings, develop the altruistic intention. This is the practice of bodhisattvas.
Syairnya berbunyi seperti ini. Ketika ibu-ibu kalian yang telah mencintai kalian sejak waktu yang tanpa awal, sekarang mereka sedang menderita. Lalu apa gunanya kebahagiaan kalian sendiri? Oleh sebab itu, bebaskanlah semua makhluk yang tanpa batas. Tumbuh kembangkanlah niat tulus. Inilah praktik bodhisattva.
Okay, so now we're getting into how to develop the bodhicitta, the aspiration to attain full awakening, so we can benefit other living beings most effectively.
Ya, kita sudah masuk ke bodhicitta, yaitu bagaimana kita dapat membantu membebaskan semua makhluk secara efektif.
Okay, so this verse 10 is about one of the ways to develop bodhicitta. It's called the 7-point cause and effect instruction.
Jadi salah satu langkah cara untuk menumbuh kembangkan bodhicitta disebut 7 praktik sebab dan akibat.
So here we recall that we've had infinite beginningless lifetimes, and that some time or another in these infinite beginningless lifetimes, each and every sentient being has been our mother and has been kind to us as our mother.
Ya, pertama sadari bahwa waktu ya itu tidak ada awal dan tidak ada batas. Dan oleh sebab itu kita juga telah memiliki ibu yang telah begitu baik kepada kita. Jumlah ibu kita itu sudah begitu banyak sejak masa waktu yang tidak ada awalnya.
So we're not really strangers to each other. We've been in very close, intimate relationships before. And, you know, we then use the example of our present mother and father too, to recall that all sentient beings have been kind to us, just like our present parents have been kind.
Ya, jadi sesungguhnya kita satu sama lain ini tidak asing. Perhatikan saja bagaimana ayah dan ibu kita selama ini ya begitu baik kepada kita. Demikian juga dengan ibu-ibu dan ayah yang kita telah miliki selama kehidupan yang tanpa awal ini.
Okay, come on. Okay.
Yes, you have to repeat, Venerable. I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't know how I got unmuted or muted. Anyway, yeah, so here we recall that in our beginningless previous lifetimes, all the sentient beings have been our mother or our father. And then using the example of the kindness we've received from our present mother and father, then we see that all beings have been kind to us in that same way, one time or another. So we're not strangers. We're very intimately connected to each other.
Ya, kita satu sama lain, ya kita ini sebenarnya bukan orang asing. Kita sebenarnya dekat. Nah, kita tahu dari mana, perhatikan saja bagaimana ayah dan ibu kita begitu baik kepada kita. Dan di satu masa, di satu kehidupan, kita pasti memiliki ayah dan ibu. Dan oleh sebab itu tidak ada satu makhluk pun yang tidak pernah menjadi ayah dan ibu kita. Nah, dalam pengertian seperti inilah kita dapat menyadari semua makhluk itu sesungguhnya begitu baik kepada kita.
So here, when you think of the kindness of your mother or father, it's don't develop attachment and clinging to them, yeah, but rather just see their kindness and then immediately recognize all beings have been kind to me in that way.
Tapi ini tidak berarti kita menumbuhkan keterikatan ya kepada orang tua, kepada ayah dan ibu, melainkan melihat kebaikan mereka dan langsung mengkonekkan hal ini dengan semua makhluk bahwa mereka telah begitu baik kepada kita.
Okay, and so this verse is saying, you know, we've been the recipient of this tremendous amount of kindness from each and every living being when they've been our mother and our father too. So if that's the case, and they're in a state of dukkha, a state of an unsatisfactory state with suffering, you know, how can we just kind of ignore them and go on our merry way and have a good time when these people who've been so kind to us are in a really bad predicament? It's like we've got to do something to help them.
Bait ini juga mendorong kita untuk menolong mereka. Kita diingatkan bahwa selama mereka pernah begitu baik kepada kita ketika menjadi ayah dan ibu, dan sekarang mereka mengalami duka, lalu bagaimana mungkin kita bisa tetap senang-senang, bahagia, bersuka cita, sedangkan mereka sedang dalam keadaan yang susah. Inilah dorongan supaya kita bertekad untuk menolong mereka.
Okay, so that pulls us out of our self-centeredness, because when we see the kindness that's been given to us, it's like we've got to repay it, you know? And so we develop what's called heartwarming love that sees other living beings in beauty and as lovable.
Dan oleh sebab itu kita diajak untuk menumbuhkan sebuah hati yang penuh kehangatan, di mana kita melihat semua makhluk sebagai makhluk-makhluk yang perlu dikasihani, perlu disayang, dan perlu kita balas kebaikannya karena mereka selama ini telah baik kepada kita.
So we develop love, the wish for them to have happiness and its causes, and then compassion, the wish for all beings to be free of suffering and its causes.
Nah, kita tumbuh kembangkan kasih sayang, kita yaitu niat agar mereka bahagia, lalu kita tumbuhkan welas asih, yaitu harapan agar mereka tidak menderita.
And then from there, we really develop a very strong wish to get involved and to bring them the happiness they want and remove the suffering that they're afflicted by.
Lalu kita akan tumbuhkan tekad yang kuat, di mana kita ingin membahagiakan mereka dan berupaya untuk menyingkirkan duka-duka atau penderitaan yang mereka alami.
And then that leads us to think, well, how can we do that in the best way? Who is the best person equipped to benefit sentient beings? And we see, you know, you can be rich, you can be powerful, but, you know, the help you give is only within this life. And then people are going to be reborn. They're going to have another, you know, life with more problems. And we see that it's really important that, you know, we lead them on the path to liberation and awakening. And in order to do that, we have to attain full awakening. And so that leads us to generate the bodhicitta.
Ya, bagaimana cara kita menolong mereka? Kita bisa punya uang, kekuasaan, tapi itu hanya dapat menolong mereka di satu kehidupan yang sekarang. Mereka juga akan mengalami kelahiran berikutnya, di mana mereka akan mengalami penderitaan lagi. Oleh sebab itu, cara terbaik adalah menolong mereka untuk bebas dari lingkaran kelahiran dan kematian. Dan hal ini hanya dapat kita lakukan dengan kita memiliki kemampuan dengan menjadi Buddha untuk membantu mereka di jalur praktik.
So this method was called the 7-point cause and effect instruction. So I'd want to list what the 7 points are so you'll know how to contemplate them in sequence.
Ini disebut sebagai 7 poin instruksi sebab dan akibat. Dan saya akan sampaikan agar kita dapat melakukan perenungan untuk 7 poin ini.
Okay, so first is recognize sentient beings have been your mother. Second is remember their kindness to you when they've been your mother. And third is want to repay that kindness.
Ya, pertama adalah merenungi, mengingat bahwa setiap makhluk pernah menjadi ibu kita. Kedua adalah memahami, menerima kebaikan mereka. Ketiga adalah niat untuk membalas kebaikan yang telah mereka lakukan kepada kita.
Okay, so those are the first 3. Then we have heartwarming love that really, sees other living beings as worthy of our affection. And then we generate compassion. So those are 4 and 5.
Yang keempat adalah menumbuhkan hati yang penuh kasih, kehangatan penuh kasih untuk kebahagiaan mereka. Yang kelima adalah menumbuhkan welas asih, yaitu niat agar mereka bisa bebas dari penderitaan.
And then the 6th is called the exceptional resolve And that's when we're making the determination to get involved and actually help living beings. And then the seventh is the bodhicitta, where we aspire for full awakening, because that will give us the greatest ability to be of benefit.
Ya, yang keenam adalah kita menumbuhkan tekad untuk dapat membantu mereka bebas dari lingkaran kelahiran dan kematian. Dan ketujuh adalah bodhicitta, yaitu sebuah tekad altruistik untuk dapat mencapai penggugahan, karena itulah cara yang terbaik untuk dapat menolong mereka bebas dari samsara.
Cultivating bodhicitta in this way keeps unmuting itself. Or muting itself.
Maybe it's the internet connection, because probably it's not stable and they just unmute you. Mute you, I mean.
Okay. Huh? Yeah, maybe the host can check and make sure that I'm unmuted all the time. I don't know who the host is. Okay, so did you get any of what I said?
The last one was about the bodhicitta. I think when Venerable explained the seventh point.
Yeah, so this is a way for us to generate bodhicitta, and bodhicitta is what makes us a bodhisattva.
Okay, dan bodhicitta lah yang membuat kita menjadi bodhisattva.
Okay, so that's one way to generate bodhicitta. Verse 11 is a second way to generate bodhicitta.
Ayat bait ke-10 ini adalah satu cara untuk menumbuh kembangkan bodhicitta. Bait ke-11 adalah cara yang lain lagi.
And this way is called equalizing and exchanging self and others. Yang
ke-11 ini disebut menyamakan diri kita dan menukar diri kita dengan orang lain.
Okay. So here we start out with equalizing ourselves and others, and that centers around really meditating that everybody wants happiness equally. Everybody wants to be free of suffering equally. And there's no difference between our friends, our enemies, our strangers, and there's no difference between ourselves and others in this regard.
Ya, jadi yang pertama adalah kita menumbuhkan satu pemikiran bahwa pada dasarnya kita ini semua sama. Ya, diri saya dan Anda dan orang lain, teman dan musuh itu semuanya sama. Yaitu ingin bahagia dan tidak ingin menderita.
So given that we all want happiness and not to suffer equally, there's what reason do I have to think that my happiness is more important than others, and that my suffering hurts more than others, and that the world centers around me and I should always get what I want?
Nah, ini membuat kita jadi merenung, apakah kebahagiaan saya lebih penting? Apakah kesusahan saya lebih berat daripada orang lain? Nah, kita selama ini terpusat kepada diri kita sendiri bahwa saya mau mendapatkan yang saya mau.
So here we start to see the disadvantages of self-centeredness.
Disinilah kita mulai melihat kerugian kita terpusat kepada diri kita sendiri.
Because our usual way of thinking, we say, well, it's good to be self-centered because that way I can get what I want and get rid of what I don't want. And, you know, that's what's going to make me happy. And that's how I take care of myself.
Karena kita terbiasa berpikir bahwa cara saya bahagia, cara saya untuk merawat diri saya adalah mendapatkan semua yang saya mau dan menyingkirkan apa yang saya tidak suka.
But self-centeredness also has a lot of problems because, when we're focused so much on ourselves, then we become extremely sensitive to everything around us. and how it affects us. So then if two people are talking quietly, we think they're talking about me behind my back, you know. And if somebody doesn't greet us in the morning, oh, how are you, my dear? We think, oh, they don't care for me at all, you know. And then we're so sensitive. Then we get angry easily. We blame people easily. We demand that they treat us better. Yeah, we become really obnoxious, basically.
Apa sih dampak negatifnya ya terpusat kepada diri sendiri, kita jadi super sensitif, kita jadi orang yang sangat-sangat menyebalkan. Kenapa? Karena kita tidak mendapatkan yang kita mau, bahkan kecurigaan kita muncul. Misalnya dua orang sedang bisik-bisik, kita bilang, dia pasti ngomongin saya. Atau ketika kita lewat dan orang tidak menyapa kita, maka kita merasa mereka tidak menghormati kita. Nah, inilah kerugian dari terpusat kepada diri sendiri.
So people always come to me, oh, I have so many family problems with my parents and my children. And at work, I have so many problems with my boss and my colleagues and my employees. And what do I do? All these people are so uncooperative.
Ya, ada banyak orang datang ke saya punya banyak masalah di rumah, di kantor nih orang-orang tidak mau kerjasama sama saya. Itu masalah saya begitu banyak.
Okay, so what to do is very simple. Don't be so self-centered and care about the other person.
Ya, jadi jawabannya sederhana, jangan terlalu fokus, terpusat pada diri sendiri, dan mulailah untuk peduli kepada orang lain.
Yeah. Instead of looking at everybody and, oh, they do this and they do that, and everybody else is wrong and I'm the one who's right, look at other people's good qualities and praise them and be kind to them.
Daripada bilang orang tuh pada rese, pada macam-macam, lihatlah kebaikan mereka, lihatlah sisi positif yang mereka miliki.
I mean, you don't want to be married to somebody who's always complaining and blaming you, and they don't want to be married to you if you're always complaining and blaming them.
Anda kan tidak mau ya menikah dengan orang yang selalu komplain dan menyalahkan orang lain. Orang lain juga tidak mau kawin dengan Anda yang selalu komplain dan menyalahkan orang lain.
Okay. So seeing the faults of the self-centeredness, then we turn our mind to benefiting others. And that has advantages.
Melihat kerugian dari fokus kepada diri sendiri, kita mulai melihat kelupan untuk peduli kepada orang lain.
Okay. So whereas all the negative karma we create is created under the influence of our self-centeredness and our selfishness, when we start to really cherish other living beings and become a kind person towards them, that brings so much happiness into our lives and their lives.
Banyak ya karma-karma buruk kita itu kita lakukan atas dasar terpusat kepada diri sendiri. Nah, inilah ketika kita memedulikan orang lain, maka kita mulai akan terpusat kepada kebahagiaan mereka dan kebahagiaan kita.
And cherishing others is the root of having not only a peaceful family and a peaceful workplace, but a peaceful country, a peaceful planet.
Ya, jadi peduli kepada orang lain itu selain menciptakan keluarga yang damai, tempat kerja yang damai, tapi juga sekaligus menciptakan planet yang damai.
Yeah, just would imagine how society would be so different if people really cared about each other.
Bayangkan bagaimana dunia ketika orang tuh sudah mulai saling peduli kepada orang lain.
Yeah. So instead of competing and I want the best deal, I want more money, you should do this and that for me. If we really reach out and we're kind and we care about other living beings, then we get along with them and there's peace among people. You know, if we really look at our lives deeply, we see that the self-centeredness is the enemy, and it's the one that supports the creation of all the negative karma.
Ya, bila kita renungkan ya, sekali lagi bila kita renungkan, terpusat kepada diri sendiri inilah sumber dari karma-karma buruk dan negatif kita. Ini yang membuat kita ketika negosiasi, kita ingin mendapatkan semuanya untuk kita, semata-mata demi kita. Berbeda bila kita mulai menunjukkan.
So from there, we go to
sayang kepada orang untuk mencapai kebaikan.
From there, so we've equalized self and others, seeing everybody wants happiness equally. Then we see the disadvantages of self-centeredness. That's the second one. Then we see the benefits of cherishing others. That's the third one. And then the fourth is called exchanging self and others.
Ya, jadi praktek yang kita lakukan pertama-tama adalah melihat kerugian dari peduli kepada diri sendiri, kemudian kita menyamakan diri kita dengan orang lain, berikutnya kita melihat bagaimana kita menukar diri kita dengan orang lain.
So here, just a simple explanation of it is we always say, I want happiness. Well, we exchange what the referent of the word I is and what the referent of the word other is. So that I want happiness, I refers to all other sentient beings. Okay.
Nah, caranya adalah kita memahami penggunaan kata saya dan orang lain. Nah, di sini kita menumbuhkan pemikiran saya yang dimaksud adalah semua makhluk.
And when you think about it, working for the benefit of others is really only reasonable, because if you think about it, we have over 7 billion human beings on the planet. And how many fish and animals and insects? I mean, too many to count. And of all these zillions of human beings, who do we think is the most important? One of them. And it just happens to be me.
Ya, bila kita renung.
Me. So here, in exchanging self and others, when we say me, it's going to mean all the other sentient beings.
Ya, bila kita renungkan jumlah manusia itu kan ada 7 miliar, belum kita hitung makhluk-makhluk lain ya. Nah, biasanya kalau kita bilang saya, yang paling penting saya itu adalah diri saya. Nah, kali ini kita ubah, kita ganti saya ini menjadi semua makhluk.
And this leads to a meditation. You may have heard about it before. It's called the taking and giving meditation, where we imagine that we take on others' suffering and giving them our happiness.
Ya, dan ini menuntun kita menuju sebuah praktik meditasi, yaitu mengambil dan memberikan. Kita ambil penderitaan orang lain, makhluk lain, kita berikan kebahagiaan kita.
So here we imagine in front of us, you could take you start with a group of people who you recognize their suffering. And you imagine that their suffering leaves them in the form of like dirty smoke and pollution. And then with an attitude of compassion, wanting them to be free of all their suffering, then you imagine inhaling their suffering in the form of this pollution and smoke.
Ya, meditasi ini dilakukan dengan sejumlah orang tertentu ya, di permulaan orang-orang Anda bayangkan mereka di depan Anda, dan kemudian penderitaan mereka muncul dalam bentuk asap yang hitam yang berpolusi, lalu Anda hirup, lalu dengan tekad bodhicitta dengan kasih sayang Anda memberikan kebahagiaan Anda kepada mereka.
Okay. And what happens is we don't just inhale the smoke and then it just sits inside of us, all their suffering sits inside. Rather, we think that our own self-centered mind is, in the center of our chest in the form of like a stone. And when we inhale the smoke and pollution of others' suffering, then it turns into like a lightning bolt that strikes at our own heart and demolishes our own self-centeredness. So that then at our heart, there's just this beautiful open space.
Oke, jadi ketika kita menghirup anggap aja asap hitam itu, kita tidak biarkan dia mengendap dalam diri kita. Tapi kita bisa imajinasikan bahwa sikap mendepankan diri sendiri itu adalah dalam bentuk sebuah batu yang ada di dada kita. Lalu asap-asap itu kita imajinasikan menjadi sejenis petir yang menghantam batu tersebut sehingga hancur dan membuat diri kita itu menjadi terbuka, ya, berada dalam suatu ruangan yang besar.
So we take their suffering, we imagine taking their suffering with compassion. And then when our own self-centeredness is destroyed, we imagine a beautiful light of love at the center of our chest. And radiating out love, we imagine our body, our possessions, and all of our merit transforming into whatever other living beings need and giving it to them.
Ya, jadi kita mengambil penderitaan mereka dengan kasih sayang, lalu kemudian sifat mementingkan diri kita sendiri itu sudah hancur, lalu kita meradiasikan kasih sayang dalam bentuk cahaya, dan apapun yang kita miliki, ya kita bayangkan, kita berikan ke dalam bentuk apa yang makhluk-makhluk itu inginkan.
So this meditation is very, very powerful. And especially, I find, if I'm in a bad mood, if I do this meditation and imagine taking on others' suffering, and then their suffering, which they don't want, destroys my self-centeredness that I don't want, and then I give everything to them so that they have happiness and they attain Buddhahood. If I meditate on that, then afterwards, oh, my mind is so much more relaxed and the bad mood is gone.
Jadi ini begitu baik buat saya ya ketika saya praktekkan dalam kondisi mood saya kurang baik. Ya, hal itu saya praktekkan bagaimana saya mengambil duka mereka dan itu membantu saya untuk menghancurkan keterpusatan saya kepada diri sendiri, dan itu membuat saya begitu nyaman bahwa bad mood saya kemudian hilang.
Okay, so that's verse 11. I don't think I read verse 11 before. So I'll read it now.
Ya, itulah ayat bait ke-11. Rasanya saya belum baca, saya cuma langsung menjelaskan saja.
Okay. All suffering comes from the wish for your own happiness. Perfect Buddhas are born from the thought to help others. Therefore, exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others. This is the practice of bodhisattvas.
Ya, jadi syair ini berbunyi, semua penderitaan dari niat untuk kebahagiaan diri sendiri. Buddha yang sempurna lahir dari pemikiran untuk menolong makhluk-makhluk lain. Oleh sebab itu, tukarlah kebahagiaanmu sendiri dengan penderitaan makhluk-makhluk lain. Inilah praktik bodhisattva.
Okay. So then, after that was verse 11. Now we have a whole series of verses that come from the genre of teachings called mind training. And what these verses center on is how to deal with adversity and changing adversity into the spiritual path.
Oke, dari kita sudah masuk ke sebuah praktik yang bicara tentang transformasi pikiran, dan ini adalah bagaimana mengubah kesukaran itu menjadi sebuah praktek di dalam jalan.
Yeah. Because we always have problems, we always have adversity. So this is a really skillful means to flip the situation and take that adversity and make it something conducive for our spiritual path. And we do this by learning to think about the situation in a different way.
Karena kita selalu punya masalah, punya rintangan, kesulitan, nah maka gunakan ini sebagai sebuah cara untuk bisa maju di dalam praktik. Nah, caranya adalah kita melihat rintangan dan masalah ini dari sudut pandang yang berbeda.
So there's many verses that are following now talking about that. And they give us excellent advice about how to think when we have difficulties. Now, of course, these antidotes to our problems are the exact opposite of what we want to do, which is why
jadi,
the antidotes.
Ya, jadi ini penawar ya atau obat ini adalah hal-hal yang sangat berkebalikan dengan hal-hal yang kita inginkan, ya, yang kita ingin lakukan. Jadi syair-syair atau bait-bait berikut ini bicara tentang bagaimana kita bisa mentransformasi kesulitan ke persoalan-persoalan kita untuk dapat maju di dalam praktik di jalur spiritual.
Okay, so let's start with verse 12 and then you'll see what I mean by this.
Ya, jadi kita perhatikan syair 12 dan Anda akan paham maksud saya.
Okay, so the first two lines are, even if someone out of strong desire steals all your wealth or has it stolen. So imagine that. Everything in your house, your car, everything you own, somebody steals. Okay. Now imagine that, and how are you going to feel, and what are you going to want to do if somebody steals all your stuff?
Baik, dua syair pertama bunyinya seperti ini. Bahkan bila seseorang karena tekad yang kuat mencuri semua kekayaan Anda, bayangkan di rumah Anda ada semua kekayaan Anda miliki itu diambil orang lain. Bagaimana perasaan?
Probably you get really angry. You want to chase after the other guy. You want to beat him up or call the police, have the police come and arrest him. You hate him. You feel violated. You want the guy to experience some suffering and just get out of here because you can't stand him.
Anda pasti ya. Bukankah Anda ingin melaporkan dia ke polisi biar ditangkap, biar dia merasakan semua kesulitan, penderitaan karena dia telah mencuri barang Anda? Bukankah itu yang pada dasarnya banyak orang ingin lakukan?
Now, if we act that way, the way we usually act, what's going to happen? We're going to create a ton of negative karma out of anger, and that negative karma is going to throw us into a bad rebirth in our next life and cause us much suffering in this life and in the next life too.
Bila kita renungkan, bila kita lakukan itu, maka kita hanya menciptakan karma-karma negatif yang akan membuat kita menderita dan juga akan membuat kita lahir dalam kehidupan yang buruk. Ya.
Okay. So, what are we asked to do? What's the Buddha telling us to do? Instead of that, dedicate to him your body, possessions, and your virtue, past, present, and future. This is the practice of bodhisattvas.
Nah, lalu apa yang disarankan untuk dilakukan? Sarannya adalah dedikasikan kepada dia semua tubuh dan kepemilikan Anda dan semua kebajikan yang Anda lakukan di masa lalu, sekarang, dan masa depan. Inilah praktik bodhisattva.
So this jerk who just stole everything I earned, I'm supposed to give him now my body and give him all my possessions, which he already took, and then dedicate all my virtue for his happiness? And this is not just now, but in the past, in the future. How can I do that? That's absolutely crazy.
Crazy. Ini kan gila banget ya. Si brengsek itu tuh, si rese yang udah nyolong barang saya, lalu saya diminta untuk memberikan tubuh saya, harta saya, bahkan semua kebajikan yang telah saya lakukan sekarang, dan nanti di masa depan, dan yang sudah saya lakukan. Ini sintingnya. Gila ya ajaran ini ya.
But imagine if you work at your mind and you get it to the stage where you can really practice generosity because you see that this person who stole everything, why did they do it? They're suffering. They need things. Yeah. So, give them what you have to stop their suffering, and then they will be happy and relaxed. And if we do that, then we create so much good karma.
Bila kita renungkan kenapa dia melakukan itu, ya dia mencuri karena dia menderita. Dan ketika kita merenungkan bahwa kita melakukan ini untuk mengatasi duka mereka, maka kita melakukan begitu banyak karma baik.
Yeah, then that person's needs are met, and we are further along the path to awakening because we just did so much, created so much merit.
Dan kita juga menjadi lebih dekat ya ke penggugahan karena kita melakukan begitu banyak kebajikan.
True or not true?
Betul apa betul?
It's true, isn't it?
Ya, ini benar kan?
Okay, let's look at the next one. If someone tries to cut off your head when you haven't done the slightest thing wrong. Okay, so imagine this situation. Yeah. You remember that some years ago, some of the people from ISIS, they were decapitating people and even making videos of it. So imagine that you were in some situation and somebody wants to cut off your head and you haven't done anything wrong. There's no reason for this person to do that to you. Imagine that. What are you going to feel?
Bayangkan perasaan Anda bila kepala Anda akan dipenggal meskipun Anda tidak melakukan kesalahan. Nah, kan kalau dulu ada video-video ISIS yang memenggal kepala orang. Bila Anda di posisi itu, apa perasaan Anda?
So you'll probably be terrified.
Anda mungkin akan ketakutan.
Yeah, probably angry at this other person. Why is he doing this to me when I haven't done anything to harm him?
Kenapa dia melakukan itu kepada saya? Saya kan tidak melakukan kesalahan apapun.
Yeah. You might even want to cut off his head.
Anda bahkan mau memenggal kepalanya.
Okay. Now, what's going to happen if you react out of that anger and want revenge? Yeah, you're going to create a ton of negative karma that again is going to bring you an unfortunate rebirth and much suffering.
Anda mungkin mau memegang kepalanya dan renungkan bila Anda lakukan itu, Anda membuat begitu banyak karma buruk dan menimbulkan penderitaan.
So what does the Buddha recommend we do instead? Out of compassion, take all her misdeeds upon yourself. This is the practice of bodhisattvas.
Lalu apa yang disarankan oleh Buddha untuk kita lakukan? Karena welas asih, ambil semua kekeliruannya untuk diri kita. Inilah praktik bodhisattva.
So recognize that the other person's suffering, that they're on the verge of creating horrible negative karma by decapitating you. And instead of focusing on your own fear and anger, think of the situation of this person who is so amazingly confused that they think killing you is going to bring them happiness. That's how confused they are.
Ya, kita bisa merenungkan bagaimana kondisi batin mereka, bahwa mereka akan melakukan keburukan, juga sadari betapa mereka itu salah jalan, mereka bingung, dan mereka berpikir bahwa dengan memenggal kepala Anda, mereka akan mendapatkan kebahagiaan. Lihat betapa kelirunya mereka, betapa bingungnya mereka.
So isn't this person an object of compassion, not an object of anger?
Ya, bukankah orang ini adalah objek ulas asih kita?
Isn't it more suitable to have compassion for him because he's going to create so much negative karma? Shouldn't you be kind to him and help take away his misdeeds and give him some happiness?
Ya, karena dia akan melakukan keburukan. Nah, karena inilah mereka adalah objek kasih sayang kita, bukan objek kemarahan. Dan ketika kita melakukan ini, kita ambil kesalahannya, yang kita berikan kebaikan kita.
Okay, so you see what I mean? That the advice we get from the Buddha is usually the opposite of our natural instinct, but that's exactly why it's the antidote that counteracts the afflictions.
Sadari ya, perhatikan bahwa nasihat-nasihat ini tuh bertolak belakang ya dengan insting yang biasa kita ingin lakukan. Ya, kenapa begitu? Karena pada dasarnya ini adalah penawar dari hal-hal yang umumnya akan kita lakukan.
Okay, then verse 14. Oh, this one's a good one. Okay, so here's the situation to imagine. Even if someone broadcasts all kinds of unpleasant remarks about you throughout the 3,000 worlds.
Oke, ini menarik sekali. Bayangkan bila seseorang mengumandangkan semua hal-hal buruk tentang Anda sejauh 3.000 alam.
So they're not just criticizing you in front of a few people, you know, or even in front of a group of people, or even in front of everybody in your country, or even in front of everybody on this planet. But this person is saying all kind of horrible lies and disgusting things about you throughout the 3,000 worlds in the whole universe. Every sentient being is hearing somebody trash you and explain all your faults.
Ya, bayangkan ya, ini kesalahan Anda, keburukan Anda, itu bukan cuma diomongin di sekelompok orang, atau di sebuah negara, atau di seluruh planet bumi, tapi ke seluruh alam semesta. Keburukan Anda itu dikumandangkan kepada setiap makhluk.
Okay, so how are you going to feel and what are you going to want to do?
Terus, apa yang Anda ingin lakukan?
Yeah. You probably want to scream and say, what he's saying is false. This guy is a jerk. He just wants revenge for something I never did. He's the one who has all these insults. You want to ruin his reputation in front of the universe.
Ya, Anda pasti ingin juga menghancurkan reputasi dia di seluruh alam, di hadapan seluruh alam semesta. Anda bilang si brengsek ini, dia yang bohong, dia yang salah, dia yang mau menghina saya. Anda membela diri dengan mau menghancurkan dia di hadapan 3.000 alam semesta.
But what's the advice that we're getting? Don't do that. But
nasihat apa?
In return, with a loving mind, speak of his good qualities. This is the practice of bodhisattvas.
Tapi kita disarankan untuk tidak melakukan itu. Kita disarankan untuk dengan hati yang penuh kasih, bicarakanlah hal-hal baik tentang orang itu. Inilah praktik bodhisattva.
So this idiot, this jerk, who ruined my reputation in front of the whole universe. Yeah. And he is the one who deserves to have his reputation ruined in front of the whole universe. I'm supposed to have a loving mind towards this guy and speak of his good qualities. He doesn't have even one good quality.
Si goblok ini, si reseh ini, ya yang merusak reputasi saya. Saya disuruh ngomongin hal-hal baik tentang dia. Dia satu hal baik aja itu nggak punya.
But that's the advice the Buddha's giving us. Yeah.
Itu nasihat dari Buddha.
If we don't follow that advice and we criticize that person back, we're creating the cause for more rebirths in samsara. We're creating the cause in future rebirths to have so many people criticize us. But that's what we do under the influence of self-centeredness.
Ya, bila kita mengkritik balik, maka kita menciptakan sebab-sebab bagi kita untuk lahir ya di samsara. Ya. Dan menciptakan sebab-sebab juga untuk orang-orang mengkritik kita.
But if we practice those methods to generate bodhicitta, then we develop love, we develop compassion, and we really care about this person and want them to be happy. And so we speak about their good qualities. We train ourselves to see their good qualities, and then we speak about their good qualities.
Ya, dengan mempraktikkan welas asih dan bodhicitta, maka kita melihat hal-hal baik, kualitas-kualitas baik yang dia miliki, dan kita membicarakan kualitas-kualitas baik itu.
Yeah. So if you do that, your mind's going to be so much more peaceful. Yeah. It's no sweat off our back to point out somebody else's good qualities. I mean, it's something we should be doing if we're practicing the Dharma anyway. And then, it smooths over the situation.
Ya, dengan praktek Dharma kita, ya kita membicarakan hal-hal baik tentang orang lain dan tidak menyulitkan. Dan praktek ini akan membawa kita melangkah maju di dalam latihan kita.
Now, these verses that are talking like this, the purpose is to help us avoid getting angry, filled with resentment, rage, wanting revenge. The purpose of these is to calm our mind so that we can then look at the situation more realistically.
Ya, tujuan praktek ini adalah supaya pikiran kita tenang, supaya kita dapat melihat kondisi secara realistis.
Okay. It doesn't mean that we become a doormat and let everybody criticize us and harm us and beat us. It doesn't mean that. It means if they harm us, we practice love and compassion so we can remain calm. And then we think of how best to communicate with the other person.
Ini tidak berarti kita jadi keset kaki ya. Ini adalah sebuah cara bagi kita agar kita tetap tenang, agar kita mampu untuk dapat berkomunikasi dengan orang tersebut.
So we may not give the thief all of our possessions and our body and so on, but we develop that internal wish, and then that gets rid of all that anger and negativity feeling.
Ya, ini bukan berarti kita memberikan harta kita kepada si pencuri, tapi kita berusaha untuk menghapus perasaan-perasaan dan sisi negatif dalam arus pikiran kita.
Yeah. So similarly with that verse, it doesn't mean that you now go on the television and tell all of this person's good qualities. Yeah. Even though maybe the guy isn't such a good guy, it doesn't mean you lie and create good qualities that you then speak about. But it means you imagine that you could do that in your mind. And then again, it helps you calm down. And then you can see that this person is just another sentient being trying to be happy, not wanting to be suffered, not wanting to suffer, and being very, very confused.
Ya, ini bukan berarti Anda live di TV ceritakan kebaikan orang ini. Ya, meskipun itu Anda tidak perlu berbohong untuk bisa dapatkan kebaikan. Ini Anda lakukan di dalam pemikiran Anda, ya.
Okay. The next one is another good one. Okay, so imagine this situation. Okay, though someone may deride and speak bad words about you in a public gathering.
Bayangkan, meskipun seseorang membicarakan hal buruk tentang Anda, ya, di publik.
So imagine, in front of everybody at your workplace, your boss gets up and points you out and derides you and again speaks of all your faults and everything like that in front of all your colleagues at work.
Ya, bayangkan bila di tempat kerja, ya, bos Anda itu mengolok-olok, ya, mengatakan hal buruk tentang Anda di depan semua rekan kerja.
Yeah, or maybe there's some big festival at the country, and whoever has the mic calls you up and then completely, talks like that about you in front of so many people.
Atau di sebuah acara, ya, ada orang yang ngomongin begitu banyak atau ngomongin hal buruk tentang Anda di hadapan begitu banyak orang.
Okay. Like all your mistakes that you've ever made, that person tells this whole large audience. And you're so embarrassed and you're so humiliated.
Dia ceritakan semua kesalahan Anda di hadapan begitu banyak orang, Anda mulai merasa malu dan terhina.
Yeah. And you probably feel like you want to just crawl under the table and hide your face. Yeah, because this person's saying such awful things about you. And nobody is going to believe it if you try and say, no, it's not true. Because actually, we do have those faults and we did make those mistakes.
Ya, Anda seakan-akan mau ngumpet di bawah meja, ya. Anda merasa malu. Ya, karena memang kesalahan-kesalahan dan kekeliruan itu memang Anda lakukan.
Okay. One time I was at a conference, a Buddhist conference in Taiwan. And there were many, hundreds and hundreds, maybe even 1,000 people there. And they took us on a pilgrimage afterwards, after the conference. And then they were having a closing session with everybody in a big place.
Ya, suatu hari saya ada di sebuah konferensi dan setelah itu kita ada satu trip, dan pada saat penutupan di hadapan begitu banyak orang.
And the master called up the 3 or 4 disciples who were most instrumental in planning and organizing the conference and the pilgrimage.
Ya, dan guru
standing right next to him.
Si guru itu kemudian memanggil 4 orang yang begitu berpengaruh dalam menyelenggarakan konser dan kegiatan conference dan ziarah tersebut.
And so this one nun, he says, oh, she was very good. She was in charge of organizing all the sessions at the conference. She was so well organized. She did everything really well. It went very smoothly.
Ya, dan si master memuji, oh biksuni ini dia sangat baik mengatur conference sehingga bisa berjalan dengan lancar.
And then the next monk, oh, this monk was in charge of registration and accommodation. And again, he was so good. He made everybody really feel welcome.
Nah, biksu ini tanggung jawab untuk registrasi dan akomodasi, dan dia membuat semua orang begitu nyaman, merasa disambut.
And so, you know, those people are being very humble and looking down, but you can see they felt good. The master was praising them.
Ya, Anda tahu ya sebenarnya si master ini sedang memuji mereka.
But the last monk, the master goes, that monk, I gave him the responsibility to, you know, organize this and that. He completely flaked out. He didn't do it. The thing was a big mess. You know, I don't know what was going on in his mind, but he just messed the whole thing up. Completely incompetent.
Dan untuk yang ketiga, masternya bilang, kalau yang ini, saya kasih dia kerjaan ini, tugas ini, aduh, nggak dikerjain. Dia bikin semuanya berantakan. Aduh, kacau deh.
Yeah. So can you imagine how he felt in front of this whole assembly of other monks and nuns and, you know, esteemed guests?
Coba Anda bayangkan perasaan dia di hadapan begitu banyak biksu-biksuni dan tamu-tamu terhormat.
But he just stood there. He was very calm and he took it.
Dan biku tersebut ya, sangat tenang, dia tetap diam saja dan dia menerima itu.
And I thought he is a very close disciple of the master. He's somebody who practices very well because the master can say this in front of a whole group of people and know that he's not going to flip out.
Oke, dan saya pikir ya, yang orang ketiga ini adalah seseorang yang sangat dekat, murid yang dekat dengan si guru, dan dia berpraktik, ya, sehingga si guru mengatakan hal tersebut dan dia tidak akan kenapa-napa.
So what this verse tells us, you know, though someone may deride and speak bad words about you in a public gathering, what do? Looking on her as a spiritual teacher, bow to her with respect. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. And so that monk bowed to his master.
Nah, lalu apa yang harus dilakukan? Syair ini mengatakan, lihatlah orang tersebut sebagai guru spiritual. Membungkuk hormatlah dengan penuh hormat. Inilah praktik bodhisattva. Apa yang dilakukan biksu tersebut? Dia membungkuk hormat kepada guru.
Pretty amazing, huh? He didn't try and defend himself. Most of us, if we're humiliated in front of a group, we go into defensive mode. No, I didn't do that. He misunderstood. This was all a big mistake. I'm not at fault. Actually, somebody else did it. We explain away things. Yeah. Even though I'm sure he did a good job on his position, and even though he was unfairly accused, he took it. Yeah. And he didn't get defensive. His pride didn't come up. And, you know, he didn't even have to look at the other person as their spiritual master. It was actually their spiritual master who was saying this.
Bayangkan bila terjadi kepada kita, maka kemungkinan ya pada umumnya orang-orang akan membela diri dan mengatakan bukan salah saya, ini begini, ini begitu. Tapi biku tersebut tidak, dan saya yakin bahwa dia melakukan tugasnya dengan baik. Dan ketika dia diperlakukan seperti itu di muka umum, dia tidak melihat kiri kanan, dia tidak perlu membela diri. Dan dia tidak perlu mencari guru spiritual, karena yang mengatakan itu adalah guru spiritual.
Okay, so that's how we should try and practice.
Itulah, marilah kita berusaha untuk mempraktikkan itu.
Okay, So, okay, let's see if there's any questions now.
Yes,
If not, I'll go on and do another verse, but.
We have some questions. I think I would like to start with this one. This one from Pak Sujarwoto. Venerable, please give us guidance before we step in the Bodhisattva path. How do we do repentance gradually?
How do we do repentance?
Yes, repentance. And yeah, I think in the Chinese Mahayana Buddhism, they have the practice of, they call it Chan Hui, in which we regret of what the mistakes that we have done.
Yes, we do that also. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the question is, how can we do it gradually?
How leisurely.
Gradual.
Okay.
By stages. Yes.
You do a little bit every day.
Okay. Dilakukan sedikit-sedikit setiap hari, ya.
Yeah. In fact, it's good to do purification and repentance every day, because most days we manage to create some negative karma. So it's good to fix that up before we go to bed at night.
Oke, jadi baiknya dilakukan setiap hari ya, karena memang kita sering melakukan keburukan, jadi pertobatan dan penyesalan itu kita lakukan sebelum kita tidur.
Okay, so, pick a period of time that's reasonable for you, whether it's 15 minutes, a half an hour, depending on how much time you have. And then, reflect on your misdeeds, confess them, repent them, and then prostration's very, very good to do to purify.
Oke. Jadi kita ambil satu waktu yang cocok, ya, yang pas, bisa 15 menit, 30 menit, 1 jam, lalu kita mengakuinya, menyesalinya, dan kemudian kita bisa melakukan namaskara. Okay, so let's say we don't have any specific methods. I mean, it's simply like we take a certain period of time before we would like to do the practice, and we confess our mistake, we repent, and then we do the prostration. Is that what you are saying, Venerable? That's the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Jadi kita cari waktu secara khusus, kemudian kita mengakui kesalahan, menyesalinya, lalu melakukan namaskara. Thank you. Okay, this is very interesting. In the beginning, we are taught that we should avoid bad friends, right? But if anyone has ever been our mother, and we should look at them like that, and how can we simply understand this? Like, we have to avoid bad friends, but avoid bad friends, and at the same time, all beings has been our mother.
Yes.
And how can we put this into practice, actually?
Okay. Avoid bad friends doesn't mean that you go, ew, you're leading me away from the Dharma, get away, I don't want to be near you. That's not the meaning of avoid bad friends, okay?
Jadi cara kita menghindari teman buruk itu bukan pergi kamu jauh-jauh gitu ya, jangan deket-deket saya. It's like the virus, don't get close to me. It's not the way we do it, right? Jadi caranya bukan seperti itu ya.
Okay, it doesn't mean like that. You still are polite to that person. You are kind to that person, but you don't make that person your best friend. And you don't spend a lot of time with them, listening to their suggestions about what you should do and how you should run your life, because you know that they're quite confused and they're going to give you bad advice.
Ya, jadi Anda tidak gaul ya dengan mereka, Anda tidak ngobrol, dan Anda juga tidak menerima nasihat dari mereka, karena Anda tahu bahwa mereka juga sebenarnya bingung dengan apa yang mereka inginkan. Jadi Ya seperti Venerable, can we say that we just know the person but we don't have to, let's say, get close with them, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, they are still,
Not,
they are our, yeah, they are our acquaintances but not our friends.
right. Yeah.
Oke, jadi cuman kenal tapi nggak gaul sama dia, ya intinya seperti itu.
Yeah. So you're polite to them, you're courteous to them, you're not mean, but you just don't become very close friends.
Ya, ya. Jadi Anda tidak jadi teman dekat saja ya. Anda tetap baik, Anda tidak jahatin orang itu, cuma sekedar kenal saja ya.
Now, sometimes the problem is these bad friends are family members.
Ya kadang-kadang orang ini tuh, orang teman buruk ini adalah anggota keluarga.
Yeah. And you have family members saying, why are you being so generous? You know, that's terrible. Keep more money so we can go on holiday. Or you have family members who are saying, why are you going on a retreat? That's useless. You're just looking at your belly button all day. Yeah. So these are, you know, bad friends. Yeah. But they're also, you live in the same house with them. What do you do?
Ya, jadi teman buruk ini tuh, Anda tinggal satu rumah misalnya dengan anggota keluarga dan bilang, ngapain sih kamu retret sepanjang hari cuman lihat naik turunnya perut, atau jangan banyak nyumbang lah, duitnya kita buat jalan-jalan aja. Apa yang harus kita lakukan?
You learn some skillful ways to deal with it. One skillful way, you change the subject.
Anda harus terampil komunikasi, salah satunya adalah Anda mengubah subjek pembicaraan.
So that person is saying, oh, why are you going on this retreat and wasting your time? So what you say is, oh, the retreat is, you know, the retreat is in Bali. You know, do you remember when we went to Bali on our family vacation? We had such a good time. So, you know, I'm just going to go to Bali and enjoy it some more. But that family vacation was so nice, wasn't it?
Ya, Anda misalnya bilang, retretnya di Bali, ingat nggak dulu kita tuh pernah ke Bali jalan-jalan. Jadi saya mau pergi ke Bali untuk menikmati. Jadi ingat nggak waktu kita dulu pernah ke sana? Kira-kira caranya seperti itu.
Or you make a joke.
Oh, atau Anda bikin kelakar.
Okay. I remember one time my mother, we were on the phone and she got really mad at me about, I don't even know what. Okay, I can't even remember. And she was really mad. And I said to her, well, Mom, this is really too bad. You have an idiot as a daughter. What are you going to do?
Jadi suatu hari ibu saya marah sama saya. Saya nggak ingat apa. Saya cuma bilang, aduh, ibu nih punya putri yang bodoh ya. Jadi mau diapain ini? Gitu.
And that stopped the conversation, you know.
Dan pembicaraan kami pun berhenti. Okay.
So you learn that you don't have to take everything personally. You don't have to defend yourself and what you're doing all the time.
Anda bisa belajar, Anda tidak harus terlalu membela diri atau mengambil semua masalah secara pribadi, ya, terlalu serius gitu. But we have one more question, and I find this very interesting.
Okay.
I'd like to ask, how can we forgive people who have betrayed us?
That is the next verse.
Next week then.
That is exactly the next verse. Okay. Should we do the next verse? This will tell you the answer.
Okay.
The next verse says,
yeah.
Yes. Even if a person for whom you've cared, like your own child, regards you as an enemy. So somebody that you're very close to, that you trust, that trusts you, and then they break that trust. And they do something really dreadful. That's the
di syair,
huh?
Di syair ini dikatakan, bahkan bila seseorang yang Anda sangat kasihi, seperti anak sendiri, menganggap Anda sebagai seorang musuh. Bayangkan bila ada seseorang yang sangat Anda percaya, kemudian dia mengkhianati kepercayaan Anda.
So usually when that happens, either we get mad or we go in our room and we cry and we feel like our trust has been betrayed. And, how could this person ever have done that? We thought they were so kind, and look, they totally, broke that trust and hurt me. And, nobody else has ever been hurt as bad as I've been hurt right now.
Anda mungkin masuk ke kamar, ya, Anda menciptakan begitu banyak pemikiran di otak Anda. Ya, kenapa sih dia begitu jahat? Kenapa dia mengkhianati saya? Saya sakit sekali. Di dunia ini tuh nggak ada yang lebih sakit daripada saya.
Yeah, so we're mad at that person. At the same time, we're so hurt, and we don't know what to do.
Ya,
And, maybe you want to go in your room and just close the door and cry for 3 years. What do we do?
Ya, kita mungkin marah, kita mungkin menangis, lalu apa nih yang sebenarnya harus kita lakukan?
Okay. In other words, we have a pity party.
Ya, jadi dengan kata lain kita tuh mengasihi diri, menangisi diri sendiri.
Pity party. Oh, they tried me so bad. Don't you feel sorry for me? Yeah, we really love pity parties, don't we? When our feelings are hurt. Oh.
Ya. Ya, ketika hati kita sangat terluka, ya, perasaan kita sangat tersobek, kita tuh suka duduk di kamar menyendiri, menangisi diri kita. Nah, kita suka melakukan itu.
So what does the Buddha advise? Cherish him specially, like a mother does her child who is stricken by sickness.
Lalu apa nasihat Buddha? Ya, kasihi dia seperti seorang ibu yang merawat anaknya yang sedang sakit.
So how does a mother treat their child who is delirious with fever and who is screaming and shouting and swearing and throwing things because he's sick? How does a mother look at that child?
Bagaimana seorang ibu merawat anaknya yang sedang sakit? Karena sakit, dia nangis, dia melempar barang, dia melakukan hal-hal yang buruk. Bagaimana?
That mother doesn't take the child's dreadful actions, blaming her, insulting her, even sometimes hitting her. The mother doesn't take those actions personally. She knows that the child is sick, that the child is uncontrolled, and that's why the child's acting in that way. So she's quite patient and calm. Yeah. Start with that.
Jadi ibu ini tahu ya, anaknya tuh seperti itu karena sedang sakit, maka dia tidak marahi, dia tidak pukul, tapi si ibu tuh tetap tenang dan tetap sabar.
Yeah, so you realize that the person who has betrayed your trust and hurt you so deeply, that person is so amazingly confused that they're really like a delirious child stricken by fever.
Ya, jadi Anda bisa bayangkan orang yang mengkhianati Anda itu adalah seperti anak kecil ya, yang sedang sakit.
You don't take it personally. You forgive the other person.
Anda maafkan orang itu, ya, jangan terlalu diambil hati.
Okay. And if
Yeah.
the child is hitting you because they're delirious, if the other person keeps on attacking you, no, you put a stop to it in a very firm, gentle way.
Ya. Lalu bila dia menyakiti Anda, misalnya secara fisik, Anda juga harus menghentikannya dengan cara yang lembut dan tegas.
Yeah, so you don't hold a grudge, you don't want to retaliate. And you also recognize, why is this person doing this action that hurts me so badly? It's because in a previous life, I did a similar kind of action that hurt somebody else very badly. Or the action may have even been in this life that we did that hurt somebody very badly.
Jadi jangan simpan dendam, jangan membalas dendam, juga renungkan bahwa hal ini terjadi karena salah satu perbuatan saya di kehidupan yang lampau, atau mungkin di kehidupan yang sekarang.
Okay.
Okay.
So all these methods that we've been going through, you have to really contemplate them in your meditation and really work with your mind, because at first our mind resists. We feel, we're so stuck in our afflictions. We resist this kind of suggestion. So we have to really be gentle with our mind and say, yes, you're angry. Yes, you're hurt. But calm down and let's try and look at the situation in this way. Okay.
Ya, kita perlu melatih merenungkannya, karena pada dasarnya di awal-awal kita juga akan sulit untuk menerima hal-hal yang disarankan di sini, sehingga kita perlu untuk pelan-pelan lembut kepada pemikiran kita, sehingga kita pelan-pelan akan dapat mempraktekkan hal ini.
And you'll probably have to meditate like this for many, many times to gradually change our outlook. But it works if you do it.
Dan Anda harus memeditasikannya. Mungkin butuh waktu, tapi ini akan memberikan hasil.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for us to end.
Oh yes, Honorable. Thank you. Korudi itu bisa ditampilin dedikasi pelimpahan jasanya.
Okay.
Mana yang dedikasi ya?
Iya.
You can do the usual dedication verse. You can lead it. Okay.
Yes, thank you for that. We are going to show it on the screen. Rudy is going to put it on the screen.
Okay.
So everybody can read. Kok Rudy, suara kamu lebih bagus, jadi tolong dipandu. Rudy has a very charming voice regarding mantra reading, so I would invite him to lead the merit dedication in bahasa. Kok Rudy, silakan.
Baiklah Bapak Ibu, mari kita dedikasikan apa yang telah kita dapatkan melalui teaching kita pada hari ini dengan membacakan dedikasi berikut. Semoga bermanfaat bagi kebahagiaan semua makhluk. Kita mulai, kita bacakan bersama-sama. Dengan kebajikan ini, semoga kita segera mencapai pencerahan. Seperti Guru Buddha, maka kita mampu membebaskan semua makhluk dari penderitaannya. Semoga batin pencerahan yang berharga ini, bila belum muncul, akan segera bangkit dan berkembang. Semoga yang telah bangkit tidak merosot, tetapi terus berkembang selama-lamanya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.
Good. Okay.